Sometimes clutch can be just a series of little shots that you do, like a little chip that allows you to get up and down and scramble for a tough par, or a narrow fairway that you hit that really keeps your round alive, or a long putt that you may sink. Sometimes in retrospect, you realize that those were clutch moments. Sometimes it's blindingly obvious. You're one down. It's the last hole. You got to win the hole. You got to get your drive in the fairway, and it's do or die time. So you know that this is it. It's the make or break putt, shot, drive, whatever it may be. So even within clutch, there are grades of clutch, different scenarios. The point is, are you going to be able to focus the way you need to? And are you going to be able to call on the performance skills that you have? Because we all have them, to help you succeed in that situation. And that's what we really tried to get at in the book.
Golf Smarter number 725. Hey, this week on episode 41 of Golf Smarter Mulligans, we meet with Golf Channel contributor Kirk Jones on his book and teaching method, The Golf Swing Modernized and Simplified. If you're in the podcast market for useful, entertaining, and informative golf improvement content, then please check out our re-released episodes from the Golf Smarter archives that are no longer available on any podcast app. Golf Smarter Mulligans is brought to you by twoguyswithgolfballs.com, where you'll find premium used golf balls at a fraction of the cost of new ones. And when you use Golf Smarter at checkout, you'll receive an additional 10% off every order, every time. That offer expires on April 1, 2020. So take advantage of the great savings on premium used golf balls now at twoguyswithgolfballs.com. The Clutch Golfer Formula with two-time winner of the World Long Drive Championship, Eric Jones.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Eric.
Hi, Fred. Thanks for having me on.
I'm really excited about having this conversation and the follow-up conversation that I'm going to have with your co-author, Dr. Glenn Albaugh, who's been on the podcast many times from his previous books. But you guys have just come out with a fascinating book, and it's the kind of topic that I absolutely love, which is the mental side of performance. Is it important? How do you develop it? How do you go get further with it? And the book is called The Clutch Golfer Formula. Mm-hmm. And I may just use this title for the title of the episode, but the subtitle is How to Hit Exactly the Shot You Want Precisely When You Need It.
Isn't that a great description of clutch? You better hit the shot you need. Got to do it right now.
Got to do it right now. But are you in the right mindset?
That's what we try to explain to people in the book. And it's a super good way for people to play better golf. Because as you know, every round is going to present you with a challenge. And you got to be ready for it.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, and it's one of the lines that will probably always hang over me, is that one of our guests said that golf is supposed to be chaotic. And I thought that was so profound because that's why we keep going out. Because I've played this golf course every week or multiple times a week, and yet I never have the same shot twice.
Well, instead of saying chaotic, I can understand that. We prefer to say novel. There will always be something novel presented to you when you play. Chaotic, I think you have a little more control over it than that. I like to say novel. So really it's a question of how well can you adapt to novel situations?
And I see chaotic as being, and what attracts me to it is that calm down. It's how you react to it. It's not, it's how you respond to chaotic situations. And one of the things that I picked up in the book was that practice the chaos, practice things that are going on. And so when you get to that situation, it's not unfamiliar to you.
That's right. So if you have some experience beforehand, you know how to handle a situation that you're going to face, or a similar situation, something like it. At least you have some options. You have some idea of strategies you could pick in all these, as we say, novel situations.
Right. I mean, we're both in Northern California, so I'm sure we, and like many people around the world, appreciate someone like Steph Curry, who practices outrageous shots and dribbling and things, but that's only because once he gets into a game situation, it's not unfamiliar to him. I mean, I've seen so many times on the golf course friends going, I'm going to try this shot. You're going to try this shot? Yeah, I saw a guy do it on TV. You're going to try this shot? Have you ever tried it on the driving range? No, but I saw him do it. Best of luck to you.
Good luck, right? Yeah, the odds of success are going to be vanishingly small. You know, we're really fortunate, and Dr. Glenn, my co-author, is so well known in the golfing community that we had a chance to interview a ton of PGA pros, LPGA pros, superstar coaches, and time and again, what you just said came through with every single one of the interviews that we did, and that is preparing correctly is really the key to success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know Glenn's relationship with Pete Carroll, head coach of the Seattle Seahawks.
His former student at school, right?
Yeah. And so the people that you do get in the book, he really pulled out some great ones there, and they have great stories, but they all seem to have the same theme.
That's exactly right. And it was rewarding, but also at the same time, it really helped us to narrow down the skills that it takes to succeed in pressure situations. And we thought, when Dr. Glenn and I sat down to start mapping out a book, because we would always talked about writing a book together, we started to map out what we wanted to talk about. And we really thought, what is the best thing that we could do to help golfers the best way that we know? And being able to succeed in pressure situations, we thought was a great solution. And then lo and behold, once we started talking to all these pros and coaches about it, a theme started to emerge. And from that, we highlighted 4 skills. These are the skills in the book that we call the pillars of clutch. So it all starts with what we call deliberate practice, practicing with a purpose, practicing the right way. That in turn leads to trust. And once you have trust, you can focus. And once you can focus, you can be intentional about the shot that you want to hit. So our 4 pillars, the pillars of clutch, the pillars that we think are the skills most often used and mentioned by all of these athletes to succeed in pressure situations: practice, focus, trust, and intention. And we're super happy that there is some commonality amongst all these players and coaches.
Define clutch for me.
It's a pivotal moment. It's a shot or a situation where the round could go either way. And I think we're all familiar with clutch. We've all been there. If you're an athlete, you've been in a clutch situation. Sooner or later, you're going to be at a point where the round could go your way or it could not. It could be the first shot of the day. It might be the last putt of a match. But there's always a moment where the match will turn or your round will turn. And at that moment, are you going to come through? Are you going to step up? Because it takes a certain set of skills to do it. And that's, I think, one of the great things about golf is you're going to have a clutch moment every time that you play. And I think it's part of what keeps people coming back, because we've all hit clutch shots. So we know what it's like to come through. And, when you can do it, especially when it's big time, like a big tournament or a big match, I mean, you get to be the hero. I mean, who doesn't want to be the hero, right?
Well, but is it something that we recognize before it happens, or is it something that, wow, that was clutch, after you did it? Because you don't want to say, I'm going to hit a clutch shot here because what's going to happen there, right? So you did it and you went, wow, yes, that was clutch.
It's a good question. And, sometimes clutch can be just a series of little shots that you do, like a little chip that allows you to get up and down, and scramble for a tough par, or a narrow fairway that you hit that really keeps your round alive, or a long putt that you may sink. Sometimes in retrospect, you realize that those were clutch moments. Sometimes it's blindingly obvious. You're one down. It's the last hole. You got to win the hole. You got to get your drive in the fairway, and it's do or die time. So you know that this is it. This is it. It's the make or break putt, shot, drive, whatever it may be. So even within clutch, there are grades of clutch, different scenarios. The point is, are you going to be able to focus the way you need to? And are you going to be able to call on the performance skills that you have? Because we all have them to help you succeed in that situation. And that's what we really tried to get at in the book.
You go ahead. You're in mid, it feels like you're in mid sentence here. You can keep going. I mean, that's the thing about what I love about this podcast is if you want to keep talking, please do.
Well, my wife tells me that if I keep talking, I get boring pretty
She's
quickly.
not on this podcast.
Thank goodness. Or maybe when she listens, she'll give me the right feedback, which is always
my
quit
wife,
talking.
I'm at 700 plus episodes. My wife may have listened to 2. Don't worry about it.
Then I won't send her the link, and hopefully it'll still benefit everybody else while they're out there. So it was really fun for us to do all these interviews, and which we then also turned into a podcast series, which we make free to all the people who purchase the book. So we have them available at a website I created called iGolfU, which is the Internet Golf University, and we can send people over there and they can listen to these podcasts. And I'll tell you, they're so inspiring. They're so motivating. And there's such a great commonality between them that you really get a feel for what clutch means and what it takes to succeed when you're under pressure or in a tight spot. And I think what that does is it gives you a much deeper appreciation for what we call performance skills, not just the mental skills, not just the mental side of the game. Breathing, visualization, positive self-talk, those are all great mental skills, but it's how you use them that turns them into performance skills. And that's what we tried to get at in the book. What do you think about? When do you think about it? What skills do you use? When do you use them? And how do you step up and step over the ball with confidence and swing with trust and let it go? Because that's when you're at your best.
Right. Hey, listen, we're going to take a quick time out. We'll be right back. And let's find out who you are. I do want to talk more about the practice with a purpose and the pillars of clutch, and being prepared so that when you are in a situation that clutch could happen, you've practiced it before. It's not just a lucky thing. But before we go there, who are you? Let's get a little history about how you got to this point and how you got to be working with Dr. Glenn.
Sure. How far back do you want to go? I mean, my first job was working in a pro shop, 14 years old. So I've been in and around golf forever. I went to school out here at Stanford, played golf on the golf team. And, then about 10 years later, went back and actually coached the golf team and had a ball doing that.
I love that golf course.
It's fantastic. I understand you had a son who went there.
I did, but I played there twice and would love to get back. I just love that golf course. That was so much fun.
And so that experience with coaching was fantastic. I was in the high-tech business, as you might imagine, around here in Northern California. And one of the companies eventually that I was working with didn't survive. And I just happened at that point in time to get involved in long drive. So I was looking to improve my game. I went to a guy who was a club fitter who said he could improve my distance. He built a club for me. I brought it back for him. I said, this is too soft. I can't hit this shaft. And he said, I'm going to put a really stiff shaft in there. And so he put another shaft in. I brought it back and I said, okay, this is it. This is what we need to have. He said, dude, you're playing with John Daly's shaft. I said, okay, that's great. He said, no, this is John Daly's shaft. Look at it. His name is printed right on it. Which I didn't realize. I said, this is pretty cool. This is awesome. He said, how far are you hitting it? I said, I'm flying at around 320, 330. He goes, do you want to be on my long drive team? And I said, no, I don't think so. I'm a kind of a serious golfer. I'm playing a lot of serious amateur golf, et cetera, et cetera. He said, well, everybody on my team gets a 50% discount. I said, sign me up. And the next week I was in a long drive contest and enjoyed it. What's that?
What year was that?
This is in 2003.
Okay.
The next week I was in a long drive contest, really enjoyed it. I won the contest with this driver that he had built me, and he said, fantastic, you get to go to the regionals in Mesquite. And I said, well, that sounds really good. Where's Mesquite? And then when he told me it was an hour north of Las Vegas, I thought, well, bring my girlfriend to Vegas for the weekend and have a great time and go hit some golf balls. Nothing wrong with that scenario, right? And so I showed up at this regional, and I wind up doing well in the regional, and I qualify for the World Long Drive Championships. I come back, and my club builder, his name was Jerry Trask, he said, you did what? First time out, you qualified for the Worlds? And I said, yeah, sure. He said, dude, we got to get serious. So he built me a bunch of clubs, long drive clubs, and it took me quite a while to figure out how to swing them, because they were 3 or 4 inches longer than the clubs that I was used to hitting. But eventually I adapted and went to the World Long Drive Championship. And as a rookie out there, first time, I was super fortunate and made it all the way to the finals. And in the last gladiator style match, there's 8 of us up on the tee, and we're all banging balls. And lo and behold, I hit the one that came out the longest. So that was a great start to my career. And I thought, you know what? I always loved coaching. I'm going to get into the PGA, and I'm going to go coach golf, and I'm going to go teach golf, because it's something I really love to do. And but there was another key element to this that helped me to succeed, because if you can imagine, it's the first time I'd ever done anything like this in long drive, and I was on the tee up against 8 other guys. Now there were 6 Hall of Famers and 2 world champions on the tee that I was up against, and so I thought my odds were going to be pretty low. But I had been exposed to some sports psychology leading up to this event, and a fellow by the name of David Cook, and I listened to all the things that he had to say about what it takes to perform. And there I was under the lights with ESPN cameras on me, 4,000 people in the stands, and in a situation I'd never been in before. But I had practiced to understand what I would do in that circumstance beforehand. I was really lucky because I had a mentor, a guy who was working on my swing. His name is Ernie Barber. He's passed away, but I went to him about 2 weeks beforehand, and I said, Ernie, I need a lesson. And he looked at me and he said, okay, well, let's get going. Where are your clubs? I said, Ernie, I don't need a lesson with my clubs. I hit the ball pretty far. What I need is a lesson between my ears. And we sat down and we talked for 60 minutes. And it's the best lesson I ever had. Never swung a club. He said, wow. What are you going to do to practice? How are you going to prepare? What's going to happen to you if you're under the lights and you've never been there before and up against guys that, are bigger, better, stronger than you? What are you going to do? What happens if you hit your first 3 balls out of bounds? Because, in long drive, you get 6 balls, and it's only the longest one that counts. So 1 out of 6, however many that is.
It's only the longest one that's in the dispersion is not too wide, right?
Yeah, it has to land in the grid and stay in the grid. So yeah. Yes. So, but it only takes 1. So he said, have you ever done any situational practice? Have you ever, how much time do you have to hit these balls? And so I was very fortunate about that. He said, what are you going to think about on the tee? Do you know where you need to focus? And honestly, at the time, I didn't know any of the answers to those questions. But over the course of the next couple of weeks, I learned how to practice. I did as much reading and research as I could. And what I found was when I was on the tee, and it really came down to it, because Fred, my first 3 balls did go out of bounds. And there was a guy who was on the tee in front of me who hit a ball 380 yards. And up until that time, the furthest I'd ever hit a ball was about 365, literally in that tournament. I never hit one 380. And my first 3 balls are out of bounds, and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? But the answer was, I already knew what I was going to do. I knew what my strategy was. I changed clubs. I basically backed off on my swing a little bit and got a ball in the grid, because I knew once I had a ball in the grid, I would relax. And I also knew that I wasn't going to relax completely, because there was a ton of pressure when you're up there. You can't believe, you can't believe how hard it is. You think, oh, you have to hit a golf ball into a fairway that's 50 yards wide. How hard can that be? But when you're standing on the tee looking out there, 350 some yards, right? It looks like it's about a quarter-inch wide. So it doesn't look that wide, that's for sure. And so what happened was I knew what I was going to do. I hit my fourth shot in the grid. It was 356. And I thought, all right, I'm in fourth place. That's the worst I can do. And that enabled me to relax and just take advantage of what I had. And I wound up hitting a shot 381 yards, furthest drive I'd ever hit in my life at that point. And I wound up beating Kurt by 29 inches.
Wow.
The next closest competitors were 15 yards behind us. So he hit his best, I hit my best, and I just happened to come out lucky. And that really launched me. But it also launched my investigation into sports psychology. And so I went back right after that, and I enrolled in a master's program to get a master's degree in sports psychology, because it wasn't my physical skill that enabled me to win. That certainly contributed. But the reason I won was because of mental skills. And I knew that was something that I had been lacking throughout my entire golf career. So, I mean, this is, 15, 20 years ago. And it wasn't such a big thing back then, the sports psychology side of things. It is now. Every player on tour, they all have a team around them, and one of the persons on that team is always a mental skills coach. So since that time, it's become a big deal. And I'm kind of lucky I got in at the early stage. And as part of that process, and I apologize for the really long story, but I got a chance to meet Dr. Glenn. So he became my mentor as I went through and got my master's degree. And while I was in school learning all of these theories, he said, "Come on, kid, I'm going to show you how we do this in the real world." And so he got to take me around all these professional tournaments and introduce me to all the pros that he was working with and say, "Now, you learn this theory about relaxation, but this is how it really works. So here's what we're going to do." So I got to see the applied part of it. We became great friends after that, and did a number of seminars and workshops together. And he always liked to bring me around because he'd like to show off my long driving, but really it was all about the performance skills. And so one thing led to another, and then ultimately we decided that we would go and write a book together, and thus the Clutch Golfer formula. Although I want to just throw one more thing. I've been super lucky because I won the World Long Drive Championship twice. So I won it again. I won it in 2003, and then I won it again in 2012, 9 years later.
Now, did you compete each year?
Oh yeah,
up to that point?
Every year. Yeah.
Let me ask you one quick question, if you don't mind. When you won in 2003, did the word clutch come up at that moment?
I don't think so, because there was a little bit of drama afterwards. And one of the things that I'm kind of known for in long drive is immediately after I hit my shot and they were doing an interview, the ESPN was doing an interview. I grabbed the microphone from Tim and got down on my knee and proposed to my girlfriend. So that was probably the biggest clutch moment of my life right there. He turned around and looked at me and said, "Did she say yes?" I said, "I don't know. Your ESPN camera was my face. I couldn't even see her." So I had to run over there and give her a big kiss, and then they brought her down and they gave us the trophy, and they gave me the trophy and they gave her the check.
That pretty much said, "This is what your life's going to be like."
That sounds about it, right? Someone in the stands said, "Better get used to it."
So back. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go back to 2012.
So in 2012, I was very fortunate. I won again for the second time, and it was a year and a half after coming off of rotator cuff surgery. So I couldn't swing a club. My left shoulder was a mess. But what I can say definitively is that the second time I won was because I knew how to compete, and I practiced the right way. I prepared the right way. And there's a great quote in Billy Casper's book, The Big Three and Me. And it came from Arnold Palmer, who said to Billy Casper, "Anybody can get lucky and win the U.S. Open once, but if you win it twice, it's not luck." And I really felt that way after the second victory. In hindsight, as I look back on it, I thought, wow, I did everything that I needed to do the right way to get myself in position to win. And then when I had a chance, I took advantage of it. And so that also comes through in the book. You know, it's that experience. It's being there. It's not just Glenn and I sitting in an ivory tower somewhere dreaming up these theories. What we wrote about in the book is what works. And that's one of the things I'm super excited about. We're living proof, and our golfers are as well. And the guys that we interviewed and coaches and athletes, they're living proof. And there's got to be something to what they say. And I hope that gives you enough of a background to provide a little bit of excitement.
What a great story. We'll be right back. Eric, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a little bit of a left turn right now because you
Sure.
clearly have a fascinating approach to instruction. What is the state of golf instruction these days from your perspective?
Sure. I'm actually really excited about it. Let me tell you a little bit about where I think golf instruction and golf coaching is headed. And the reason I say this is, you know, that golf's now in the Olympics.
Right.
And which is super exciting. And the Olympic Committee has what they call a long-term athlete development model. And in the United States, it's now called the ADM, the American Development Model. And what excites me is that it's a way to go back in time and look at the pipeline of athletes who are coming. And it makes sense that the Olympic Committee would be focused on the pipeline because every 4 years, of course, they have to come up with athletes who are competing at the highest level. And the Olympics and the Olympic Committee understands that it's really the development program that leads to great athletes. And golf has now adopted the development program that is really in charge of turning out great athletes. And the model that they're using, the ADM, what excites me the most about it, I think, is the part that I'm most involved in, which is the performance aspect or the performance side of it. They make a big deal of separating out the technical skills from the performance skills, and they mention them very specifically. And so in my mind, what's going to happen over the next 5 to 8 years is coaching or teaching is going to switch to coaching. And sure, people are going to get all the technical swing and technique skills that they need because you always need to increase your technical skills. But they're also going to begin to get a lot more performance skills. So what do I mean by that? There are mental skills and there are performance skills. So in the book, we mentioned what we call the big three mental skills: breathing to relax, visualization, and positive self-talk. Those are mental skill techniques. But as soon as you start using them to execute, to pull off a shot, then they start contributing to performance. And once you start contributing to performance, now you're looking at confidence, you're looking at trust, you're looking at your ability to focus, maintain your commitment. And those are all skills. And what it does is it's going to enable teachers of the future to teach more than just the golf swing. There's a time before you hit a ball, pre-swing. There's a time in swing. There's a time post-swing. And then there's all that time in between. There are 4 areas where performance skills can be applied, should be applied. And we as coaches are going to be able to teach our students what to do during those times. So pre-swing, you really need to have 2 types of focus. You need to have a broad focus so you can understand the lie, the yardage, the conditions, the situations. But then you also need to narrow your focus down to the exact shot and swing that you need to accomplish it. So focus is a key performance skill. And then you need to maintain that focus during the swing. So the swing itself has 2 components. It has the physical side, and it also has the mental side. Can you continue to visualize the shot, see the shot, feel the shot that you want to hit, and can you commit to the strategy that you've chosen? And then once the shot is over, you have an interesting opportunity to recover or to reinforce if you've hit a good shot. And then if I were to put this all on a graph, of course, 90+% of all the time we spend on the course is all the in-between stuff. Yeah. So what do you do? And so just to go back to focus, you can see throughout that whole process, the level of focus that you need when you're before a shot or during a shot is very different than the kind of focus that you need in between. You don't need to be nearly as focused in between shots as you do when you're standing over the ball. That means your ability to control your focus is a key performance skill. And it's not something that is traditionally taught. But as this ADM, as this American Development Model begins to proliferate throughout the PGA, those skills are going to be becoming more and more emphasized. And I'm super excited about it because I don't know about you, but I've seen the biggest improvements in my students happen when they focus on their performance skills rather than their swing technique. Improving your swing technique is a great way to get better, but it's grinding. Once you reach a certain level, your improvement level is going to be incremental as you incrementally improve your swing. You're not going to make a sudden leap. On the other hand, if you can master performance skills, you can make a sudden leap. And that's what excites me, because that's how we can get golfers to play really better. And when they play better, they have more fun. It's more enjoyable. They just play better. They come back, they play more often, and that's how we grow the game. This is what we've been teaching for the last 12 to 15 years. So I'm super excited to see the PGA now starting to roll that out. And I think you're going to start to see it become the dominant model. And as these juniors who are now going through the pipeline progress and are taught these performance skills, they're going to be asking their teaching pros to teach them those skills. And so it's a great opportunity for pros right now to learn what it takes to teach performance skills and begin integrating them into their practice.
Is there a place we can go to find more information about the ADM and what's going on with this?
You can read a little bit. Certainly the Olympic Committee has some interesting information. The PGA has a great site called pga.coach.com where you can at least get an overview.
It's pga.coach.com or
pga.coach.
pga.coach. Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you for correcting that. So there's one place they can go. Of course, they can always come over to our shop and we can have a conversation about it. But I would also encourage them. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we wrote the book, because all of the skills that you need to performance skills, are inside the book. And we put it together in a system. We identify the 4 key skills, the deliberate practice and trust and focus and intention. And the formula part of it is a pre-shot routine. It's a system to incorporate all these performance skills. And that's lock, load, fire, and hold. So the actual clutch formula is lock, load, fire, and hold. And it's a way for the average golfer to develop a pro level routine, which will help them be a lot more consistent.
Great. Oh, this sounds amazing. And taking a cursory look at pga.coach, it feels like they're incorporating, or your timing is perfect, what you guys are talking about in the book, the clutch golf formula.
We hope so. The ADM has to operate at a relatively high level. It's their job to say, hey, it's important to teach performance skills. And then the next level is, okay, how do I teach them? Or if I'm a golfer, how do I learn them? And that's where our book is. It's a pretty tactical approach to developing performance skills. So this is the next level down. This is the applied version of, okay, great, I'd like to have performance skills. Where do I get them? And they're in the book.
Fabulous. So good. Oh, this is really interesting stuff. Congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you.
You guys are onto something big, and I can't wait. We're going to get Dr. Glenn on the show real soon. Hopefully, he'll be on next week. And I had this cough that lasted a month, so I know what he's going through. So I'm hoping that he'll be fine, and we can have this conversation when he gets fully recovered. But one of the things that I find so interesting about this is that we get back to what we were talking about initially, and that is that clutch is not something that just happens, that you're there and you're comfortable with the situation because you've practiced it. And when I was in the beginning of the book, I kept thinking, well, how do you practice this stuff? Because it's all happening on the course. And then you actually give in the book, which I highly recommend, you give examples of how to practice being clutch.
We like to break practice down into different categories, and this is something that I think all golfers really need to learn. For one thing, you practice to work on your swing. And unfortunately, we see far too many people working on their swing or their technique, but that is one reason to go out and practice. Now, another reason to practice is what we call performance metrics, to measure your performance. Like how many putts can you, out of 10, can you make from 6 feet? Once you start measuring something, there's a quote from Peter Drucker, an old, the management guru. It says, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So once you can start to measure your results, like how many times can you, even when you're practicing, how many fairways can you hit out of 10 shots, let's say, then you start to work on increasing your performance metrics. But what you're referring to is what we call the highest level of practice, which is simulating as much as possible the conditions of play while you are in practice. So what does that look like? Well, when you play, every shot matters. So when you practice, you find a way to make every shot matter. So there needs to be some kind of emotional component or investment in the outcome of the shot. We do it a lot through competition, and that's what we see at the college level. They're competitive. They're in competitions all the time because that's when shots matter. But it could be as simple as you just imagining there's a out of bounds on the right-hand side of a line and hitting your drives to make sure they don't cross over the line. Or it could be simulating play, which is another one of our favorites. Take 3 holes, and we like to do a par 3, a par 5, and a par 4, play 3 holes and see if you can hit your drive in the fairway and then an approach shot in the fairway. If you miss, you're a bogey. If you miss them both, you're double bogey, and see how close you can get to par playing 3 different holes and cycle through. So the other thing we could do is drop different shots and say, all right, you're a golfer and you typically fade the ball, but this shot calls for a draw. What are you going to do? And then just set up scenarios.
Yeah.
And imagine those. And the more you activate your imagination, the better it's going to be. Most of us, and I imagine you would do the same thing. It wouldn't take you long to think through your last 6 rounds or a dozen rounds or whatever and say, oh my God, I had this tough shot here and this tough shot there. Well, why don't you recreate those on the range and say, well, now I have a chance to hit those again. What am I going to do? How would I do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense. A couple episodes ago, we once again featured Lynn Marriott and Pia Nelson.
Oh, fabulous.
And every shot must have a purpose, right? Their books, their teachings, not saying that they're similar, but you guys are in line with one another and what we're preaching here.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry to use the word preaching if that has a negative connotation, but that's what you're talking about. Tell me, igolfu.com. You mentioned it earlier. What is that?
It's a website that I put together to as a place to house a lot of the teaching that I had done, where I can structure my lessons, primarily videos, in a university-style format. In other words, they're presented as a course. So after I won the World Long Drive Championship, I wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Keys to Distance. And then ultimately, I turned it into a training program. And the reason it's at iGolfU and in a university golf format is it's presented in a curriculum. So you start with lesson 1 and you go all the way through the end. And it's a great place, I think, and a great way to learn, faster way to learn, rather than just a bunch of random videos that you might watch here or there, some of which are going to conflict with each other. This is a curriculum with a definitive point. There's a reason for each one of them and there's a goal for each of them. So I created iGolfU, and we're slowly adding more and more courses, and we'll have more courses from other teachers turned into this, university style format. As you know, e-learning is becoming a big deal. But rather than just go and randomly watch videos, why not learn things in a systematic way? So it's my effort to do that and make things a little bit more systematic for them.
And is it accessible to everyone?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there are 20 some different courses on there right now, and 3/4 of them are all free. So there's some that you would pay for. Yeah. So it's a great spot. It's also the place where that you would go to find the clutch test. Now, remember I said before, if you can't manage it, you can't test it. So Dr. Glenn and I hired a research firm. Once we had identified the key pillar skills, Dr. Glenn and I hired a research firm to develop a questionnaire for us, a survey, essentially, to measure people's skill level at these performance skills. And so that's also free. So you can go out and take it and get your clutchness ranked. See how clutch you are. So that's been a lot of fun too. And we've had hundreds of people already go through and take the test, and we kind of collect data on the back end to see if we can draw any correlations. So we're going to continue to study it to see if there's any information we can pull out of it that would be even more helpful to golfers. Like, the golfers who are highest in this category perform best in these scenarios, or if you want to get to this level of play, like if you shoot in the 80s and you want to shoot in the 70s, then here's where you need to be the strongest skill. So we're excited about that. But it's a great site. It's a lot of fun, and it will continue to grow as I continue to add more courses and more teaching professionals to the site. So I want to create a hub where everybody can come and learn, but in a structured way, and learn good information and learn it well.
And you have your own website as well?
Yes, ericjonesgolf.com. That's the site that I use primarily for my individual teaching. I run 3 academies here in Northern California. We're at Creeka Park in Alameda, Redwood Canyon in Castro Valley, and Stanford. And our focus is largely on juniors. Which is another reason I'm excited about this new ADM coming, because we've already been doing what they want us to do, and we're developing a pipeline, and we have a comprehensive program. But the cool thing is that the programs that we have also work for adults. So, it's the same. Once you have a structure, there's a set of skills that you want to learn, and there's a progression to learn them.
Fabulous. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. I hope that we can get you back on the show sometime. This was a lot of fun, so enlightening, and so important. I really do believe that this content is so important for all golfers. And the feedback that I get from listeners is so often people will write reviews in iTunes or something that says, I never even thought about the mental game or didn't even realize it existed till I heard your podcast, and my game has developed so much since I started incorporating it. So thank you for pursuing this. Again, the book is called The Clutch Golfer Formula: How to Hit Exactly the Shot You Want Precisely When You Need It, with Eric Jones, PGA, with an MA. And we'll also have Dr. Glenn Albaugh back on the show as your co-author. Thanks so much, Eric, for your time.
It was my pleasure.
Again, the book is called The Clutch Golfer Formula: How to Hit Exactly the Shot You Want Precisely When You Need It. And it's by Dr. Glenn Albaugh and Eric Jones, today's guest. Now, along with the link in Amazon for the book, I'll also include the websites discussed in today's conversation, which are igolfu.com, ericjonesgolf.com, and PGA.coach. So please check all those out. And again, I'll include the links in the show notes, which can also be found on our blog posts at golfsmarter.com. They're all included. I'm really serious. I made this offer recently, and I'll keep repeating it, but I'm really serious about giving you a shout out to you and your playing partners, as long as you're all Golf Smarter listeners. And if you are, then write to me with the names of your foursome, or if you have regular players that listen, I'm happy to give everybody's name, and tell me also where you play. You can reach out to me on social media at Golf Smarter, of course, on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.